Welcome to ERI's Global Enrichment Zoom for teachers and schools. I am overwhelmed by the numbers that have registered. As we begin, the number of participants is closing in on 1,000. This is our Zoom participation limit, and once it is reached, I'm afraid no one else will be able to join. However, I will share the YouTube links to the recording of this session with all who have registered. I would now like to introduce ERI's main resource persons for this enrichment Zoom. Neha Pradhan Arora has worked in the education and development sector for 20 years with a focus on building collective responsibility and transforming children, teachers, and classrooms through dialogue and learning experiences. A social worker and teacher by qualification, she has been the resource person for the Social Justice and Advocacy program in the Edmund Rice schools in India since 2018. She is also the co-founder of an organization that works on the issues of safety and protection of women and children from abuse, violence, and exploitation. Grace David is the coordinator of social justice education at St. Columba's School, India. She is also the lead member of the Edmund Rice Social Justice and Advocacy School Animators core team. She has successfully helped children engage with the UN. She coordinates St. Columba's Edmund Rice annual JUST workshops for the global and national Edmund Rice and partner schools. She is also a member of the Christian Brothers Province Laudato Si team and an advisor to the national and international preparation team for the Synod. I welcome both of you. And now it is my pleasure to hand over to you, Neha.
Thank you so much, Brother Tino, and good evening to everybody from India. It's quite overwhelming to see the number of people who've joined this call. I hope we are able to help you decode this really long title that you can see in front of you, Nurturing a Mindset of Justice and the Skills for Advocacy in a Classroom. I'm going to dive straight into this. We are going to try and understand some of these words. So I'll invite you to put into the chat box what comes to your mind when you hear the word justice. Just type quickly into the chat box. Okay, I can see some responses coming in. Equity, equality, fairness, being just, being fair, inclusion, respect, lots of amazing words, honesty. Thank you so much. I can see that we are familiar with this word and we do have some understanding of what it means. For some of us, it may represent this image, the scales of justice, and we understand that there has to be equity, fairness in the way we deal with others. For some, justice may mean an inclusive space, which includes everybody, has everybody on an equal footing, and gives everyone the space to raise their voice or put their opinion for everyone. For some, it may also mean a space for everybody, even if it's not shared equally, but being on the same platform, people from different races, different regions, different ages, different religions, everybody just being together as we survive the world that we are in. When we try and understand what the word social justice means, and I'm going to do this really quickly, one can spend a lot of time contemplating this, but a broad understanding of social justice is the equal access of wealth, opportunities, and privileges within a society for everybody. And the term everybody is also something that may change in our context. But remember, it's not just about wealth, but also about opportunities and privileges. It also has been expanded in the recent years to include the planet and all people. So when we say social justice, we are saying it's not just for all the people, but also for the planet and all the resources. We need to make sure that exploitation, oppression does not happen, and there is a fairness in the way everybody is being dealt with. The sense of being exploited by a few is not being done. If we have this broad understanding of justice and social justice, The next question that comes to our mind is, what then is a mindset of justice? Can I have a perspective or an ability to look at the world through a lens that helps me to understand what is just and what is unjust? Let's see what we can look at here. If I try to think of justice not merely as a value or a word, but as practices, as a belief system, as behavior that I bring into my life, then this is what it can mean. If I have this mindset, it means that I'm rooted in the belief that everybody deserves a good life. Everybody has a right to a good life. I include everyone in my interactions, relationships, and my view of the world. I treat others well. I'm able to confront attitudes and behavior that may be leading to oppression. And this means that I introspect, I reflect, I think about whether I have this attitude or this behavior and whether others have it. This also means I'm able to express this anger at injustice or at oppression that I see around me. It means I'm able to take a stand. I'm able to also work towards the change. So I'm not just saying this is wrong, that is wrong, this needs to change in the world. I am also able to think of ways in which I can work towards this change of this just world that I want to see. And therefore, I work to empower myself so that I'm able to become somebody who can challenge these systems and help others become this advocate also. So if I have a mindset of justice, it means I see the world differently. I interact with people with fairness, with respect, with equality, and I advocate for the justice that I want to see in the world. Now, then we wonder, is this something that we are born with, or is this something that we can develop with time? And this is really the important question, because if we are not born with it, then does that mean we continue to live our lives without understanding how to stand for justice? So here's what has helped make it easier for us. It is possible to develop a mindset of justice. It takes an understanding of what is happening around me. So to build my knowledge of people and their different backgrounds, it means I try to learn about different attitudes, behaviors, and systems that are leading to oppression and those that are not. And this is sometimes the most difficult thing to do, because there are so many small behaviors, systems, beliefs that are actually leading to injustice and oppression, which we do not often identify because we've never really thought about them. So learning about these attitudes is another way to develop this mindset of justice. Once I have gained this knowledge and learned about this attitude, then I educate myself and empower myself to be able to ask these difficult questions, to get uncomfortable with what is happening around me and take this stand. Sounds very simple, right? Just 3 steps. But you can see the image on that slide. It's often a really winding and long road. All the steps don't really come easy. You may go up a couple of steps and then down a couple of steps. So it is a long and winding journey. But what gives us hope is that it is possible. And what we are going to try and look at today is whether we as educators can actually bring these steps of nurturing this mindset into our classroom so that all the students and children we work with are able to grow into adults who have this mindset of justice and who can become advocates of justice. So I'm going to invite my colleague Grace here now to help you look at what this looks like in a classroom. Grace, over to you.
Thank you, Neha. Can you show the next slide, please? Okay, we have one important question before we dive into the next segment. So quickly in the chat box, can all of you share what are the challenges that you face or teachers face if you want to bring issues of justice into the classroom? So quickly in the chat box, can we see some of the challenges you are facing or you have faced when you want to talk about justice or bring justice? Partiality, opposition, understanding of students, favoritism, you children. Okay, religion, biases, judgment, entitlement, fear, parents' opposition, strength, no interest, biases. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Yes, I hope all of you are also looking through the chats because it is enumerating the challenges that we face in a classroom. And by the way, they are very real, and I'm sure all of you have gone through it. I think the one biggest challenge that all teachers face is time. Okay, we say we don't have time, we have to face the academic curriculum, we have the management on our head, and how do we reach the standard of teaching that is expected from us. So now how do we, bring in this values of justice into the classroom? Because what Neha has just shared, this approach is very valuable, and we'll again unpack it a bit, and it will be called embedding justice into the curriculum. Neha, can I see the next slide? Yeah. So what we are proposing is the whole school approach, which is embedding in the curriculum and the classroom through our lesson plans, through our home tasks and the projects that we give our children. So this is asking for a collaborative approach in teaching and learning across board. It's not only the task of the educator, like say a social justice team in a group, okay, or the social justice animator, or few people in the school management or someone. It's across the board, everybody is participating in this approach, and we have started calling it embedding justice in the curriculum, which means that, through everything that we are doing, saying, planning, including our policies, including the the things that we are doing in terms of safeguarding, in terms of sustainability, we are keeping the elements of social justice. So field trips, life skill education, outreach, assemblies, everything in the school calendar is planned with this whole idea of justice. Next slide, Neha. But again, as we say, embedding looks like a very big word when I say embedding justice in the curriculum. So let me unpack it a bit. And so just talk about how social justice education can become practical. Okay, how can it become doable? If I'm a teacher, I'm going into a classroom, I have to teach history, math, science, physics, chemistry. I have this long list of academic timetable to complete. How do I make it, possible with all this that I have to do? So we have just, gone through the challenges. So how to make it practical? We suggest and just propose 6 elements as a framework which we can use to integrate social justice into the curriculum. So we look at these 6 elements in the next slide. If we keep our eye on these 6 elements and try to embed these elements or these values into our classroom setting or into our activities, we feel that, and we have tried it, that we can embed social justice into the curriculum. Because as teachers, we need help to break down the big idea, social justice, into very doable small themes, which are very easy to work with, which are so easy to integrate. And having these 6 elements as our focus, it also helps us when we are thinking of collecting resources of how we will teach, because this will just add another layer of objectives to your classroom teaching or your activities or to your outreach. But these elements will help to deepen the understanding of social justice. Basically, what we are trying to do through all this, say self-awareness, respect for others, exploring injustice, movements, changes, we are trying to create this whole idea of students recognizing the value of diversity, and also questioning, why there is injustice. What is the role of power, of oppression that has been played out in history? Students can help to see what are the negative beliefs and stereotypes that they have about themselves or about others. And keeping these 6 elements in our mind as we plan our curriculum, whatever our subject may be, we can motivate the students to create change and all the same develop skills which are needed to be advocates. So that is our goal. So a teacher, when planning a lesson plan, if she or he has these ideas, these 6 elements in their mind, they can easily plan a great social justice lesson plan. And as actually these elements are not mutually exclusive, they are very inclusive, and we can go through them step by step to lead us children to a deep understanding of social justice through our teaching. Okay, so I'll go through the elements one by one and explore them a bit more, starting with self-awareness, which is element number 1. Next slide. First is self-love and knowledge, which is the first element. I think it's the most critical one, because students here, the teacher, gives the students opportunities to learn who they are, where they come from, The objective is that they have a sense of pride in their culture, in their ethnicity, race, religion, skin tone, gender. Okay. And they explore different aspects of their identity, their own history, of their own communities. And what happens doing this is that they try to identify, deconstruct, and understand what are the stereotypes that are, associated with their identities, or say with their communities. So when they are doing this kind of engagement, they learn how to have a sense of pride, or to understand, that there is a history between what is happening to my community or to me. And they learn how to believe in that rather than the lies that have been told to them. Okay. So they understand structures. This picture is also from one of our schools. Actually, all the pictures that I'll be showing you are from our schools. This is students engaging in some kind of a activity to learn about each other, and their communities. Yeah, looks like they're fighting, but they're not. And they're trying to, understand each other, their diversity. Okay. Next one. The second element is respect for others. Okay. Because just sharing element number one will not be enough. We have to move from there to create a climate of respect and diversity. Okay. And here the important thing is that we teach our children to listen with kindness and empathy to each other and the experience of their peers. Okay. So the teacher, or who's teaching, can provide opportunities for students to share their knowledge about their own cultural background with their classmates. In this way also, students learn how to deconstruct stereotype about their peers, their identities, and learn from history about the strengths, the resilience of each other's culture. Okay. Here we can see a picture. This is from our school. We did an inclusive sports day, and we called students from across the board to participate along with our boys. And it was an amazing experience, because they could interact with another community and see their strengths, see their problems, and kind of engage in a very empathetic manner. They recognize the struggles and the oppression which another community is facing. And it's beautiful if it is done with this experiential activities and lesson plans. There, it's very important also in this stage we try to represent the marginalized groups. For instance, those who are multiracial, people who are coming from adoptive parents, or transgender, bisexual, single parent families. In fact, at these two stages, teachers can even invite family members to share aspects of their cultures and language. Field trips to museums, to organizations can also be encouraged in this element. Third element is we move to from celebrating diversity and all, about ourselves, we learn about others. The third element is exploring issues of social injustice. Now, this can also be a very, it's a very tricky place to be in, because here we will help our students to go through history and see how diversity can also be used as a marker for, oppression, because oppression has been experienced by various groups of people across history. So students learn, the history of the various isms like racism, sexism, classism, religious intolerance, and how these forms of oppression have shaped people's life experiences today. Okay. So they also need to understand that this oppression works both individually, institutionally, systematically. And so they can also be, encouraged to explore their own experiences. Okay. So we just don't take them to some, ideas of social change or working for social change without going through this exploration. Okay. Here you see a chart created by one school where they were trying to see what are the problems that the school community is facing, and these are the children who have shared the problems on the chart paper. So students have to investigate what are the causes of social injustice. And in fact, I think, as Neha showed the staircase, this step is very critical for us educators, because it is a challenge for us to also evolve and to go out of our zone to relearn about history a bit more. At, I think, every stage we'll be challenged to evolve. Now the fourth stage is a great stage, because it is a stage where we help our students to also see models of hope, models of change. Okay. Because the third stage can be little, in the sense, not negative, but it is a little more saddening in a way, because we learn a lot about where people have faced pain and suffering, and it can overwhelm our students. So this fourth stage calls for us to encourage our students to look at people who have worked to create change, And in this also, not only just people who are popular, okay, they are there on the stage, but what were the various other movements in history which helped these people to reach that stage where they could create a big change, okay? So looking at historically how people have worked, to create change. This gives a sense of hope. They also see models of people, and it is encouraged that not only we pick up historical models, but also models from community, our own city, of people who are making change on one level or the other. Moving on, we come to the fifth one. uh, I think, but more than that, I want to just show you this framework, which I'm sure all of us are aware of, because this is very easy framework for us if we want to explore issues of injustice and social change, which is the UN SDGs. And because there's so much of injustice, there's so much of oppression, you will think, what should I pick up and how do I relate it, and take the SDG framework and explore issues using many of these ideas that are given there. And of course, if we are working with children who are younger, maybe in the primary level or the middle school level, then we can use the 5 P's, okay? Because the 17 goals have been also broken into the 5 P's, and, partnership, prosperity, people, planet. And this is also a language where we can talk about the UN SDGs without using the difficult SDG goal language, framework. So if you're dealing with younger children, use the 5 P's, and they work very beautifully with the children, and we can take up issues of injustice, explore them, and talk about models who are working for change. Yes, so moving on now to the fifth element, which is raising awareness. See, once students become passionate about an issue and they have a drive, and they feel angry, or they feel that there is unfairness, as many of you shared in the chat, there's not, there's no equality. We can encourage our students to take up an issue and to talk about it. And at this stage, it's very useful that we can, engage through various options like essay writing, newsletters, editorial, websites, blogs, plays. Here we have a school assembly being performed by us, one of our schools. So songwriting, visits to museums, galleries, and presenting their learning to the school community to begin with, or even encouraging our students to talk to their parents, going back home and talking to their parents about an issue which they have learned about and which they feel even their family can be involved in. So helping our students to talk about what they have learned through skills of research, communication, and taking a step towards advocacy for social change. Next one. The last one, which is the sixth element, is taking social action. So here we are asking our students and encouraging them and giving them the opportunity to participate in creating change firsthand. Okay, in this, we give them opportunities to identify issues which they feel passionate about. Obviously, they learn about it, and they will use their skills to improve the situation or the condition of the lives of that community or that group which has been affected by that injustice or whatever is happening to them. And they do it through research. They will analyze the situation, and they will also work with people who have the power to change the particular situation. Maybe they don't have the power to change it, so they recognize a lot of bullying is going on in our community, in our school community. They do the research, they do the survey, but of course they can't do the change. They'll talk to the heads, they'll talk to the teachers, they can advocate with the principal that we want a anti-bullying committee, we want this, we want that. So it's like taking social action in which they are making some change and they see the effects of change. We see a group of our students in Arunachal, they made these dustbins and they gave it to the people in the village community so that they can help them to have sustainable dustbins and to spread the litter and all that. Okay, so we here see that taking social action is actually, in a way, we can say, a culmination of these 6 elements, and it is highly recommended that we go from them in a systematic level, because if we don't build on them sequentially, we can leave our students half baked or half cooked. So just taking them into social action without help making them understand the root causes, the community, what does the community need, we will be doing a half baked task. So following these 6 elements help us to embed justice in the curriculum. And we'll go to the next slide. Yeah, this is how it will look if you want to see it visually. So you have your lesson plan which you want to teach, you have your curriculum goals which you have to achieve, and along with that you have your eye on the social justice elements, the 6 elements that you have been just told about, we are proposing. If you can just keep your eye and see how you can bring that social justice element into your lesson plan, whether it's through poetry, whether it's through a comprehension to build awareness, then taking it a step further and helping your students to talk about it to others, investigate it further, do a change. Okay, so this is a visual image of how you can embed justice in curriculum using the 6 elements. So first 2 elements, which is self-awareness, respect for others, can be very easily embedded in all these areas which we have listed here, in the lessons and in activities, especially in our classrooms of value education, life skills curriculum, sexuality education, stories and poems in literature, historical context, social dynamics, arts education, and sports. These are very good mediums and platforms where you can embed all this. As we showed you, sports can be in inclusive sports. Art education can help our students recognize diversity, work for the planet, peace, prosperity. All these give various opportunity, especially in languages, in history. Okay, so this can be one very good. You can obviously add more to the list, but this is what came to us. Next slide, please. The next 2 elements are social movements, social change. This can be done through audio-visual resources, which are plenty. Songs, videos, movies, which showcase, people who have made a change, who have impacted history or are doing that even in our local community, as I said. It's not necessary to pick up very big figures, even people who are making change. Maybe it's a parent. Once we highlighted a parent who was making a change, working with working on the road, helping to control traffic along with the teachers. That made a great impact because that parent was standing there to help us. Using infographics, data-based resources, in our classes, especially when you're teaching eco, you're teaching subjects which use infographics, newspaper articles, very easy to get, and again very useful to talk about current issues, especially when we are helping our students to see how current issues are, full of oppression, and what are the reasons, what are the power plays at work. Okay, case studies is a very useful thing. We get a lot of case studies, we can look through them, because this helps a student to critically think, which is our goal, that the students have to critically think and also to use their own language when they are trying to ask for change. Let them come up with the slogan, let them come up with an idea of how to change. Okay, so giving them case studies, letting them see how people have tackled a problem or how they have led a movement or how they are still struggling, and letting them go deeper into analysis. Group discussions and debates are a very big hit with senior school, because seniors really love to debate and talk about, and letting them talk about it without, and keeping it a bit open ended and not trying to give them answers, but letting them investigate themselves and helping them to see all sides of history, presenting them with all parts, types of various ideas which we can think of. And of course, language, IT, art, these are very great places to integrate social movements, social change, and exploring issues of injustice. Next. Yeah. Then group actions that can be done through projects. In our curriculum, we have various subjects where we have to give projects, and now a lot more stress is on project-based learning. So again, this gives our student a hands-on opportunity to raise awareness, to take action. Here we see students working on a toy collection drive, others are working on another campaign to talk about something else. And this is something which really gives energy to the students when they see that they are impacting, that they are leading the change, when we are giving them the space to talk and express. And I think that is one, this culmination is what we should really aim for. When students start saying, yes, we can make a change, when we are being listened to, and we are giving the spaces to express ourselves. And that is what we want to do through social justice education. Next slide, Neha. Yeah, and you will realize that as we are doing this embedding of social justice education in our lesson plans, in our activities, in our assemblies, and all that we are planning in our school, we are actually developing skills for advocacy, which is critical thinking, analysis, creativity, literacy. Media literacy is very, very critical now. because we are surrounded by media, so much of information. How to find out what's fake, how to find out what's true, how to use data, how to communicate, whether it's through digitally, verbally, written, or even through art, dance, poetry, mime. Okay, how to plan projects, how to implement. So students have various skills. They are, some are good researchers, speakers, writers, implementers. So they develop these skills, and you will be surprised that these students suddenly come up with so many great ideas, and they showcase all their skills in various ways. So social justice education actually helps us reach our curriculum goals, because at the end of it, teaching, the goals are this of teaching also. So our students develop skills, and they become far more better representatives of the cause than us, I think, at the end of it. Yes, thank you, Neha. I think that's the end. Yes, that's the end. Brother Tino, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both, Neha and Grace. At this stage, we are going to go into breakout rooms, okay? And we're going to go into those breakout rooms for about 30 minutes, all right? Neha, I'm going to invite you to share with all our participants what they can expect in the breakout rooms before I start them.
Sure, Brother Tino. The framework that Grace has just presented before you is an adapted framework taken from an article developed by some educators. We will be sharing that article with you. We have also tried to show you the tools that you can use to embed these elements. She gave you some examples right now. In the breakout rooms, subject teachers who are also social justice animators in all of our schools have been practicing this approach for the last at least 3 years, and we are still evolving and strengthening ourselves in practicing this more effectively. What we have for you in each breakout room today is examples from their classrooms. So there are some examples from the younger classes. So let's say grade 1 to grade 5. There are some for middle school, grade 6 to grade 8, and some for high school. We understand that there are teachers and educators here from different boards and curricula, but we've tried to stick to concepts that are found, across boards, but you will get a chance to also place your questions in the chat, and our teachers will answer them based on their own experience in the classrooms. So we hope that these examples will help you see how practically this approach is happening in so many of our classrooms.
Or Neha, maybe you can just speak about once again about the all school approach, okay, and how leadership in a way can
Yes.
as you. So why don't you speak first?
Okay, great. So I just want to ask everyone the elements that you heard. Do you think there are already activities in your schools that you are doing related to these elements? Just put a yes in the chat box, or a no, or a maybe. Okay, Vandana says yes. Thank you for that. Ramna says maybe. Thank you. That's good. Catriona also says yes. Great. Lots of yeses, some maybes. So the idea is okay, Dorothy says maybe, but not to a great extent. Thank you for being so honest. I hope that after you've heard the elements today, you realize that a lot of what you're already doing is helping to build this mindset of justice. And maybe if we introduce some of these newer elements with this intention that it will build a mindset of justice, then we will be able to strengthen the approach in our schools. So, for example, I'm sure many schools have assemblies where children speak, perform, talk about a particular issue. That is a great way to actually bring in different incidents or issues of injustice by doing your assemblies on certain themes. You can also do this by building a calendar around the international days of commemoration. So, for example, if there is World Environment Day or World Earth Day, try and see how can the children understand the issue and then present it in the assembly, rather than it just be something that you've given them to learn up and then they've gone and done it. So the more children are able to work independently with your guidance on exploring issues, on finding creative tools, and then using these skills to present to other people, you will see not only will their understanding of this mindset improve, but it will also build skills that they need in their academics. So that's one suggestion that we've tried, and it works really well in our schools. Another thing that we've tried is our school calendars, at least in India, I know they're really very full. Every month there are events, there are programs, there's too much happening. So then if you want to do separate events around social justice, there's usually no time in the calendar. So one of the ways we've tackled this challenge is to say existing events in the calendar, let's bring in themes of justice into these. So let's say you have a sports day. Can you look at the drill display being on the SDGs? Or can you have, let's say, one of the drill displays on peace or on gender equality, right? Maybe you have an art competition that happens every year in your school. Can the theme for that also be something related to one of the SDGs? But you give children guidelines so that they have to do a little research on that issue before they actually use the skill of art to express it. So another way to really bring the issue, the value of justice, and to build this mindset is to try and see how everything in your school calendar can actually have different layers and shades of these elements of justice. I hope these two ideas have helped you. If you have more specific questions, you can put them in the chat. So Sister Nirmala says that how can we involve students in decision making within the school to ensure their voices are heard and respected? Thank you, Sister, for this question. It's interesting to think about this, because very often we don't even acknowledge that students should be involved in decision making. So I'm really grateful for the question. And I know that there are various ways in which we can actually do this. There are models that can happen, but the easiest way to do it is to ensure that there is some choice in classroom processes as much as we are able to do within our curricular requirements, right? And I think this may require longer discussion. But one easy way is to, let's say, if there is a community project that the class is going to do, rather than us telling children, okay, why don't we collect this or why don't you do this, having a discussion on identifying the needs of the community and then saying, what do you think is the best way to respond to it? Maybe having 4 choices and saying, can we choose the best one? Could be one way to, let's say, engage students in decision-making processes, particularly around work that happens in justice. And eventually, if this can happen in all processes, I think that's an ideal school that we could be looking at. Okay, Sangeeta says she learned how to use SDGs in her classroom. Thank you for that reflection. Innovative ideas you got. Thank you, Mary, for sharing that. Okay, have any of our schools been successful with advocacy outside the school? So I'm guessing you want to know if students are able to influence decision makers outside the school. And I know that that usually seems like an area that may be very overwhelming because we often don't know where to start. What we try and suggest to our schools, even when they start off in this, is maybe start by influencing the larger school community, then look at, let's say, neighboring schools. If you do have, if you've done enough exploration of the issue or the need, and there is, let's say, evidence and data and then a recommendation, then you can take it to local administrations, stakeholders, to be able to ask for this also. One of the examples I can share is we are doing justice meets right now across all our schools. And one of the requirements in that for participating schools is to do a project where they study a particular problem and then try and gather evidence on it and then make a recommendation. And this could be recommendations within the school or outside. There are also channels that through the help of ERI, we are able to engage students in some of the UN processes where they are able to give their ideas, opinions, their evidence, their experiences, which then gets collated and is then shared in larger international forums also. Brother Tino, if you want to add to this, you could maybe do that.
Well, over here, all right, number one is just having now where do I start? Awareness, creating awareness in the classroom. Okay, creating awareness about advocacy, about human rights, the rights that the children have. Okay, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, if you Google that. Okay, if you Google, let us say, UN human rights mechanisms, okay, that is more for you. All right, but then otherwise, that's as I was sharing in the beginning, Grace and some of our social advocacy coordinators at the beginning of this month, they got groups of students together in different schools. They had a Zoom meeting with them, and then they conducted a survey. Okay, the UN is celebrating 75 years. Okay, this 75 years this year, and so they had a survey wanting to check how children could be more involved. Okay, so they had that survey, and then they submitted that to the UN. So there are opportunities like that. Over to you, Neha.
Thank you. The reflection is very, very encouraging. Many of you have, I think, said you've got practical ideas of how you can take justice into math and science and social science. I'm just going to bring up one question that came. This is more in the context of the teachers from India. You've asked, does the NEP bring in the SDGs? The NEP does talk about making the content contextual to the local area, right? When you start embedding justice, when you start looking at it through the lens of the SDGs, you can bring in a local water problem, you can bring in a local forest problem, and in that way, the NEP does say bring in, what is happening in the world around you into the classroom. It doesn't specifically say the SDGs. So I hope that has helped. Thank you, everybody, for these really encouraging reflections. I'm glad you have found the tools useful, the ideas creative, and doable, like many of you have said, that you can try to implement this. I'm just going to take about 2 minutes to wrap up the sharing today. I wish we had more time, and I hope we can do more such interactions, maybe with smaller groups, so everybody gets a chance to ask their questions and share their experiences. But I want to end with asking, why are we doing all this, and what will we achieve if we bring an approach like this into our schools, into our classrooms? I just want you to see these pictures. What you see is children who are taking charge of their learning, they are participating, they are working together, they are exploring, they are questioning. That is what we see in our classrooms if we start bringing this approach in. And all the ideals that the purpose of education outlines for us across cultures and across countries, that is what we start seeing as a reality, where students are able to take up work, take up learning, take up issues, take up problems, and work on it with a sense of responsibility and ownership that this is what they want to do to change the way the world is around them. So what this approach really achieves is that it creates individuals who, no matter where they are in life, whether they become doctors or engineers or teachers or musicians, or they join the armed forces, or they are chefs, no matter what they are doing, they are able to look at their world through this lens, to recognize injustice when it happens around them, and they know how to, or they have the courage to ask difficult questions and try and change systems that are oppressive in nature. So this is what it can help us to achieve. It also, in the bargain, actually makes all of us more reflective about ourselves as teachers, as educators, as learners, and as leaders. I think each one of us in our classrooms are leaders because we are influencing and changing this world that is within our classroom. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this image, but I want to end with this because it tells us that what we are trying to build is not just a personal commitment or a personal belief, but this is the way global education is now moving. This is the global competency framework that the OECD has actually developed, and the PISA exam that some of you in some of the other continents may be aware of, which says that all we need to train our children in, or all education needs to achieve, is competencies, which is a combination of knowledge, values, skills, and attitudes. And it lists out 4 competencies. It says Education should help children examine local, global, and intercultural issues. It should give them the ability to understand and appreciate the perspectives and worldviews of others. It should help them to engage in open, appropriate, and effective interactions across cultures and give them opportunities to take action for collective well-being and sustainable development. It's a lot of big words, but I just wanted to share this with you. You can Google this image, you can Google global competencies OECD, and you'll get the same image. But I want us to realize that this is what global education needs us to do. This is the direction we are all moving in. And this approach can help us to do this practically in our classrooms. So while I hand over to Brother Tino, with gratitude to all of you for just being here for so long and listening so patiently, I'm just bringing up this prayer for justice on the screen. Maybe take the next 30 seconds to just read it quietly. And that's all from me then, brother.
Thank you, Neha. One of the most wonderful things that is happening today, and we have seen in this Zoom, is networking, collaboration. If we want to bring about a change, if we want to help students gain an awareness of rights, not just their rights, beginning with their rights, but also then the rights of others, especially those most disadvantaged. Okay, if we want to give them skills, okay, as Neha was talking about just now, of how to address these, okay, then this networking, this collaboration is so very important. And now that I'm going to invite you in 2024. ERI will be running a four-session training, Zoom training, okay, on human rights and advocacy, and with a special emphasis on the classroom. And many of our presenters like Neha, Grace, and others who are in the breakout rooms will be part of that team. Okay, so I'm going to invite you to join that also. And it will, if today you're saying, I need more skills, I need more awareness, that would be a great session to join. Since I have your emails now, I will be keeping you updated on any Zoom trainings, enrichment Zooms like this today. I'll be keeping you updated. If they catch your attention, if you feel they'll be useful for you, just like today's was, okay, please do join. Okay. Finally, I'd like to take this opportunity in a very special way to thank Neha and Grace. Okay, they have been really the architects of today's session. They are the ones who worked very closely with the teams, and because of all the hard work that has gone on, I have a list of some names in front of me, so I'm just going to thank them quickly. Nisha, Marian, Joyce, Daljit, Amarpreet, Supriya, Pratik, Andrew, Sayantini, Aarti, Ruchi, Lakshmi, Teresa, Ritesh, Andrilla, Neha, Vinita, Abhishek, Hema, Grace, Jeevan, and anyone else who has been working on this. Thank you very, very much.